Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is the CK Diary Podcast. I hope you guys have had a great week. I have so much to share with you today. Thank you for joining me. Let's go ahead and start. I am drinking a tea today, and actually, I'm using, I'll talk more about this later. I made a gauge swatch yesterday, and I've been meaning to make a coaster for my tea while I sit in here because I have this on like a wooden shelf. I've been meaning to make a coaster, and I just keep forgetting until I come in here to do another podcast. So I'm using my gauge swatch as a coaster. And today I am drinking Babette's B's and Teas. It is her Scottish breakfast tea blend. It is very good. This was already open, so I must have had it before, but I don't remember drinking it previously, but it is very good. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So I have two finished objects to show you this week, both of which I'm very excited about. You have seen most of one of them. These are the Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. I made the size 2 to 4T and 4 to 6. So that was my 2 to 4. You saw all but one sleeve of this, I believe, last week. And then this is the 4 to 6. Can you see that? Yep. I used knit picks for both of these. The Wool of the Andes Superwash Worsted. This is the Delft Heather colorway, and this is the Shire Heather colorway. My youngest son has blue eyes, so I thought this would look so nice with his eyes. And my oldest son has green hazel eyes, so I thought these were perfect for them. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about the stats on these really quick because I'm really excited about, these are my first sweaters I've ever made. If you've been watching for a while, you will know that this is my first year knitting. I'm very much a beginner, and I started this podcast to kind of keep a diary of my makes and my progress, and to also encourage other new knitters, beginner knitters, that they can just make what they want. They don't have to start with washcloths or never-ending like test swatches of stitches. You can dive in and you can learn making the things that you want to make. So I did use 5mm. I used the same needles that they had in the pattern suggestion. I met gauge. I did do a gauge swatch for these. I hated gauge swatches in crocheting. I hated gauge swatches, and I rarely ever did them, and I regretted it many times. And then knitting, I never really did do gauge swatches because I just kind of dreaded them. I felt like it would take forever, and I don't know. I was just like, well, if I do a gauge swatch and then it doesn't meet gauge, then I'm gonna have to do another gauge swatch. I just like dreaded them for some reason, but I actually quite enjoy doing a gauge swatch, and it doesn't take long. I'll talk about another gauge swatch I did a little bit later, the one I just showed you. It only took, it didn't take that long. It took like 30 minutes. It doesn't take that much yarn. You can save the yarn if you want to. I'll talk more about it later, but I ended up I knitted it in the round and then snipped the yarn in the back, but I have plenty of yarn for what I'm making. So if you wanted to save that yarn, you could just pull, whenever you do a gauge swatch in the round, you can just pull extra slack in the yarn that you carry across the back, and then you can save that yarn. You can take it out and use that. But anyway, back to the Flax Sweaters. I started my youngest son's sweater, the 2 to 4 size. I started it on Friday, August 9th, and I finished it on Thursday, August 15th. So this went way quicker than I was thinking. And I was like, I wonder if I can finish 2 sweaters in less than 2 weeks. And I finished this one the day that I posted the podcast last week. So last week I filmed on a Tuesday, and then I posted the podcast on Thursday. And I finished this that Thursday night. And then right after I finished that one, I cast this one on right away on Thursday, August 15th. And I finished it on Tuesday, August 20th. So these went so super fast. It was a worsted weight yarn, so it was going to be faster in nature anyway, just because the yarn is heavier. And like I was saying, I used the same needles that they recommended in the pattern. It was a 5mm for the body, or, you know, for the majority of the sweater. And then the ribbing was done with 4mm needles. I love the way these turned out. I took a few pictures of the boys. I don't share their faces online, but I'll try to put a picture in here if I can. I'll put like an emoji over their face or something, so you guys can see the picture of them wearing it. It is so sweet. And I'm really excited about it. My youngest son could not have cared less. He didn't even want to put it on. But my oldest son, he's 4, he was so excited about his sweater. It's like, it was 92, I think, yesterday with like 85% humidity. So it was so hot yesterday. And my son was like, can I please wear it all day long? So that was really sweet. And I'm really excited. We do a trip to North Carolina every year, so I'm really excited to go do our trip so they can wear their sweaters on our trip. They'll be able to wear it here too. We just have a very limited cold season here in St. Augustine, Florida. So anyway, I was very excited about those. Those were my only 2 finished objects. I do have a, where did it go? Give me one moment. So I did start a new project after I finished their sweaters. I have another project that I'm waiting on yarn for. I'll talk about that during acquisitions. I have another project that I'm waiting on yarn for that will take precedent over this. But for now, until that yarn gets here, this is what I'm working on. It's what the gauge swatch was for. Let me grab this. Show you the gauge swatch again. I'm trying to go for like a little marled look with the maroon and the cream. And this is what I'm making. It is the June top by Petite Knit. There's not really a whole lot here to even show you. You can get a better picture of it with the gauge swatch, but maybe you can see it a little bit there. So this is knit from the bottom up in the round. Again, I did the gauge swatch and I'm using the needles that they suggested. They're 4mm needles. I don't even know how many rounds I have here. It looks like I have about maybe 11 or 12 rounds. And I am loving this. It's just stockinette right now that I'm working through, and I really love it so far. It has been fun working with the 2 strands of yarn. She uses silk, I believe, in the tank top from the pattern picture. Sorry, brain fart. I'm not using silk. I am using 1 skein of superwash merino with 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon yarn. This is the classic sock from Polka Dot Creek, and it is just their natural colorway. There is no dye on it. And then I'm holding it double with the 355 Aladdin sock from Malabrigo yarn. It is 100% superwash merino. This was the very first like fancy yarn that I bought. Very first not big box store yarn that I bought. I bought it from a little yarn shop. Well, it's not really a yarn shop. It looked like it was mostly quilting and needle art type things, like embroidery and needlepoint and things like that. But they did have a small selection of yarn. It was from a shop called Tudor, I think it was Tudor Rose, and it was in Georgia. I'll have to put more of the info below, but the woman who owns that shop was so super nice. I feel like when you read about yarn shops online, sometimes they can sound intimidating. I feel like I've read so many negative reviews about yarn shops online that maybe they aren't very friendly to beginning knitters, and they really are looking for experienced knitters, and they kind of don't pay attention to or won't help people that have lots of questions. That has not been my experience at all. I've been to lots and lots of yarn shops now. Every time we visit anywhere, I stop in at a local yarn shop if they have one. And so far, everyone has been super accommodating. Everyone has been super welcoming, and they all happily answer my questions. This woman, at the owner of this yarn shop, was so super sweet. She told me that they ship and that if I ever have any questions about the yarn, to give her a call and she'll give me a more in-depth description of the color, because sometimes it doesn't show as well over a picture, and I just thought that was so sweet. And so I will be making the June top with that. It said it took 4 skeins of yarn, so 2 fingering weight skeins held double, or 2 fingering weight yarns held double. It would take 4 skeins of yarn. I'm doing the size medium. All right, let's see. Oh, so the other thing I wanted to talk about was my Sophie shawl. I don't have it here with me. The Sophie shawl was what I was using, the BFL that I bought from Westshire Spinners. I ended up tearing it out, ripping it back, because the gauge was a little bit looser than I was wanting it to be. I did not do a gauge swatch for that. I'm using 5mm needles right now. I'm going to switch to 4.5mm needles, and we will see how that goes. I will do the Sophie shawl. I'm trying to think. I'll probably do the Sophie shawl and the June top together, just work on them both at the same time. I've really been just wanting to work on one project here lately, just work on it and get it done. And that changes all the time for me. I know just a few weeks ago, I said that I was enjoying knocking out multiple projects at a time. And then a few weeks before that, I said I'm just one project at a time. Right now, for the last 2 weeks, I've just been one project at a time. All right, and I ordered the yarn for my husband's sweater. I do plan on making him a sweater. I'm going to be trying, unless you guys have a better suggestion. I've been looking for suggestions for men's sweaters, and the only one that people have given me is the flax sweater. But my husband doesn't really like the neck on it. It's a raglan top-down sweater, and then he prefers more of like a crew neck that's tighter to the neck, and that one's not. So I found a sweater called the Wafer sweater, and it's by Liv Ulven. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but it is a very nice sweater, and he really liked the shape of it, and so I'm going to try that one. I am also using Knit Picks worsted yarn. It's going to be the Superwash Wool of the Andes. And I think the name of it was Cobblestone Heather. It's a really beautiful gray with whites and blacks mixed into the gray. All right, and the last thing I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to start doing some kind of thing on the podcast where I kind of spotlight a pattern that I either have on my wish list on Ravelry, or one that I'd like to try one day, or even maybe share some free patterns with you guys. Today I want to talk about the Field Sweater by Camilla Vaude. I'll put up a picture of that here. She describes it as a beautiful grain pattern on the yoke, and it is knit top down seamlessly in the round. Right now, I've never knit a top differently than top down seamlessly in the round. The June top is knit bottom up, so this is the first time I'm knitting a garment bottom up. My poncho was knit top down, in the round, my vest was knit top down in the round, and I quite like that construction. I feel like, I don't know if it's just because it's the only thing I've ever tried, but it seems easier for my brain to wrap around. And I certainly like knitting in the round, so I'm not having to do a ton of purling. And if I were to knit something, I did find a men's sweater that I really liked, but you had to knit it in sections and then seam it all together, and that seemed a little too, that seemed just like a little bit more than what I was actually wanting to do. So that field sweater is absolutely gorgeous. That is just a little sweater that I found while I was looking through different things on Ravelry, just looking at projects. Sometimes I just go on there and scroll through and see what's what. But that is all I have got for you guys today. I am so excited to work on this June top. I'm really excited to get my husband's yarn in. It is supposed to be here tomorrow, so we will see. And that is really all I have to chat with you about today. I will say one more time, I know I talked about it a little bit last week about how I am doing a collaboration with Stitching with Yarn, and we should be showing you guys what the bag and what the yarn looks like here soon, and I'm so excited for you guys to see it. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope it is full of relaxing and baking, and I will see you guys here next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.